for, oof, okay. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you, even as we're closing in on Inauguration Day on Monday. It's always going to be Dr. King's birthday, so think about that, everybody. And what a confluence of events. Only God would make it so that we celebrate Dr. King's birthday on Inauguration Day, year after year after year. Wow. And there's going to be a lot of work before us. We can see that. But that was going to be true even if Kamala Harris had won, because the country's in a very interesting place. Very interesting place. And we're in an interesting place, specifically now because we have about 4 or 5 more days left in the Biden administration. And the things that President Biden could do. Yeah, he could, because he's been doing them. He's been issuing pardons. He's been releasing lots of money. A lot of things have been going on. So now my question is to this panel and to everybody here, what do you want him to do? What executive order would you like for him to issue just because? Think about it. What monies do you think he should release? And to whom? You know, Black land grant colleges, and I'm sure you can read this would really be in your wheelhouse. The president emeritus of Bennett College for Women, brilliant economist, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, they are owed about 15 to 16 billion dollars. You know, we cut those checks to Ukraine routinely.
Well,
They could be made right, but let me let everyone know we got Livonia Perryman, award-winning journalist, radio and TV host, and producer. Of course, veteran of the Jackson campaigns and of Democratic politics going forward. Of course, Dr. Alia Amar, brilliant social justice advocate, but she's also a brilliant scientist, world-renowned scientist. And so we're always glad to have her, and brilliant economist, and of course, the president emeritus of the Bennett College for Women. Um, Dr. Malveaux, I mean, you see all these Black colleges that are owed, there's these land grant schools that are owed this money. There's so much, believe it or not, everybody, that could be done in 4 or 5 days.
Exactly. I mean, many colleges, my former college, Bennett College, owes the feds. Many of our HBCUs owe the feds. Forgive the debt. He could forgive the debt. That's number one. He could do that very easily. Number two.
Okay, what do you mean he could do it easily? What do you mean?
He could do an executive order. He could say this money is not owed. He's done it with many others. He could do it with our HBCUs. Number two, HR 40, reparations.
Yes.
He could establish a reparations commission. He could fund it. He could put 10 people on it, me, a bunch of other folks, part of the National African American Reparations Commission, and he could get that work done. He can't provide reparations, but he could certainly fund a study, which we could do. NARC had hearings on June 19th, 2019, Juneteenth, where I testified, as did many others. And we could do that. He could do that just like that. Number three, pardons. There are so many people who have been unfairly convicted and have long-term federal sentences. He could pardon them. Just like that, he could pardon them. He pardoned his son. I ain't mad at him. I'd have pardoned my son if it was mine. I mean, he pardoned his son. He's pardoned many others. He's taken 36, I think, people, the number maybe are off of death row. Why not simply pardon minor drug offenders that are incarcerated federally? Minor drug offenders. I'm not saying if you're the big old cocaine dealer, you should get off. But there's so many people who have done minor things, and they're in jail for the rest of their lives for things that today are legal. So I think that those three things, I would want HBCUs pardoned. I would HR 40 instituted, and I would like all these people, and there are thousands of them, to simply be pardoned by Brother Biden. I'll call him Brother Biden when I want some. When I
Well,
want,
that's fine. But, my thing is the 94 crime bill.
yeah,
Everyone he incarcerated, let them all free. Now, hold on, because his son would have been in prison had he not been his son, according to that bill. Now, I mean, and he got cover.
no,
So, while on others thou art calling, don't pass them by. You got a few more minutes. Make it right. That crime bill.
he can do that. He can do that.
Bomb.
What the thing about Brother Biden is that he's always played by the rules. And playing by the rules means he's not going to rock the boat. But we need to push him to rock the boat.
What rules? What do you mean he's played by the rules?
He's always been go along to get along. He's always like the
no. He's done what he's wanted to do. He's a master of the game. Hold on. No. This is not someone who's held the line. His son, and it just came out yesterday. They said, we just decided not to touch him anymore. He's gotten all kinds of cover. Now, I'm not mad at anybody because that's, and he also took documents home too. So, I mean, so give me a break. I mean, what? No. What we're seeing now laid bare is the corruption, Dr. Malvo, Dr. Amar, Lavonia Perryman. The quiet part has been said out loud. But, and now you got people, when I was in school, they call it reefer. You got folks selling reefer out west.
You got people in jail who were selling it when it was still called reefer.
Now it's cannabis. Oh, okay. Right.
So we cleaned it up, we whitened it up. The other thing he can do, by the way, Santita, is he could put some money into fighting LA fires.
Yeah.
Let me say that Altadena is a historically Black community.
Absolutely.
And they have experienced a disproportionate number of losses. I have 3 friends right now and a former faculty member who've lost their homes, lost everything. And right now, he could say, here's 50 million, 100 million, a billion to make
you get $1 million, you get $1 million, you get $1 million, you get $1 million. Right? I mean, you know what? I'm not, but Dr. Malvo, I'm not kidding. Dr. Amar, Lavonia, he could do that. He routinely, we don't know how much money's gone to Ukraine because we know the money that's gone on top of the bill. Because above a certain amount, you have to report it. But beneath that, you don't have to report it. They have given hundreds of billions, plural, of dollars. We're about to bring up Ariel Gold. What? I can't believe Ariel's here. Ariel, wait a minute. I'm about to get you right.
Hey.
Okay, you're out of town.
I just want to join in on what Biden could do, and as I've been watching him these past couple days, that foreign policy pat himself on the back. He is a small man, small little narcissistic man. He's now focused on what's going to look good for his legacy and how he's going to frame himself. And that has nothing to do with the American people, certainly has nothing to do with the Palestinians in Gaza still being bombed.
Oh.
Ew.
If I may interject.
There's no any way to that. I mean, help me. Because he's got 4 more. He's not. Donald Trump is not the president yet, y'all. I mean, contrary to what you might think, he's not the president yet. But the president is still Biden.
Instead of taking a victory lap and patting himself on the back and giving all these speeches about how he has been the best president ever and he's leaving this great legacy, he could be signing executive orders. He could be sending money to California. There's a lot he could be doing, but he's spending his time patting himself on the back and thinking of, what he's going to name his library.
So do we need to be making phone calls? When I say we, meaning the citizens of the United States that voted for him, do we need to be flooding the White House? I mean, we can teach tonight. we really can teach and
You know,
educate today.
one thing though about flooding the White House is for more than a year, the White House received constant messages
Yes.
about the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, the needs of the American people. This has been a tone deaf administration like none other. And so, with 4 days left, I wonder who he needs to hear from, short of God, because I don't think he's listening to anybody else. There are pardons that are needed, and I agree with what was said before, but there are some preemptive pardons that are needed. We all know what we're facing. We all know what we're about to walk into. There are some preemptive pardons that are going to be need to protect journalists, to
Mhm.
protect some of the senior activists. You know, what the target list, or you at least have an idea of what the target list is because they published it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
go through
Yeah,
Project
yeah. I mean,
2025.
there you go.
Who's going to be targeted? And make
Read,
sure that the people
read
who are
Project
really
2025.
fighting for us. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
but
read
oh, I've
Project
read it. I've
2025.
No,
read
but
it.
no, but hold
I'm
on,
not
let her
talking to
finish.
you, sis. I'm talking to the audience.
Oh,
Read
Yeah,
Project
no, look at
2025.
Project Esther and look, Biden's not our ally with that. He went after the students on campus. We
yes.
know who's going to be targeted, and they were targeted by Biden as well. So, and I don't think he
But
can hear God because I don't think he hears anything but his own
No,
ego in his
all he
ears
hears
right now.
is
I don't know
like
who else watched that
what
foreign policy
he
speech, but I
hears
am
is
it was bad.
from it.
no.
It was
Just
bad.
ill
He's
from
in
it.
a space right
Everyone
now where
stop,
he's got
wait,
to
wait,
preserve.
stop. I'm all for the engagement, but I got to hear everybody. So when what now? Come on, sisters. When someone stops, just stop talking and let everybody have their say. Ladies, Delaney sisters, come on. There you
Well, this is Livonia, and I'm gonna take liberty and say, because I want to get it in. And when you're talking about it, and Doc, all of you said the right thing. The reparations. I mean, you should be on a panel. The Congressional Black Caucus has reintroduced that after 40 years. We're just asking for a commission. I mean, that's what we really to do a study. I mean, we're not talking.
Mhm.
And we don't
And
need to do a study. We know
we
Livonia.
already know, yeah,
Forgive
and
me
and
for
you and you
interrupting
you make a good point because we're talking to the people that listen to you, Santina, and so we need to hear. They need to hear that this is just a pen. This is a scribble of your initials in terms of what he can do. Number two, but I want to go back. Let's think about one of the things that's glaring in Michigan, Flint, Michigan. Wait a minute, Gaza's over here. I get you. Palestine's over here. Billions of dollars. He could drop could have in 4 years for $1 billion and wipe out the problems in Flint, Michigan. It has not been done. So yes, God would have to probably walk water down here on the Detroit River for him to understand that those
Well,
people are
God
still
couldn't drink the
suffering.
water, Livonia. With respectfully, God couldn't drink the water in Flint, Michigan, because that is some
No.
funky water.
So what are we
I
talking
just
about?
thought
We're
it was
asking him.
true.
Yeah, we're asking a man in 4 days or 5 to make a change when he's had 4 years.
And
So
that's
your
a
point is,
challenge.
Well,
That's
we're
a
we're
challenge.
asking a man.
He doesn't really fit. I mean, when I say he's played by the rules, he's a traditional, middle of the road Democrat.
No,
He
he's
is
not.
not a progressive.
He's
People
a
want to call
no.
him a
He's a
progressive.
right wing. No, he's
He
on the
Yes.
very
right.
much is a right
He's a
wing
right.
Democrat.
He's
I
not
think so. Yeah.
traditional. He's always been to the right, and
Yeah.
he's always he was anti-busing. He
Yes.
went on the floor of the U.S. Senate
Yeah.
days after we had seen Rodney King almost lose his life. Thank you, Reginald Denny. He presented the Police Officers Bill of Rights. He has
Mhm.
always been to the far right of our politics.
Yeah.
That's why for Obama and Clyburn and everybody to push him was shameful. It was
Yeah.
shameful. And
He's
to push
to the
and
right of Trump right now.
oh,
He's
come
to the
on.
right of Trump on Gaza. I don't know if folks followed what Trump just did with Netanyahu, but he did what Biden has refused to do for over a year now. He had his envoy Trump did call up
Yeah.
and say, I'm coming over. I'm going to meet with Netanyahu and we're going to talk. And Netanyahu's office said, it's Shabbat. We can't meet with you. And he said, I'll be there. And I expect Netanyahu to be there too. And guess what? Guess who was there? Netanyahu.
But you know, Netanyahu's going to be there because he's about to get everything he ever wanted in a bag of chips.
Absolutely.
Ben Gavir, and the attacks that he will be putting at Masjid al-Aqsa next month during Ramadan, mark it down. You know, the settlements that they're going to push in the West Bank, they're getting everything they want in a bag of chips. But I'm with you, Ariel, because he set that up. Biden set it up, and Trump is just, taking it in. But
just the act there, though, of laying down a line, which Biden refused to do, and we're hearing now, it's because Biden said, "Oh, his legacy," right? Again, it's just back to him and his legacy.
Well, he's got a legacy now. He's genocide. He's got a legacy.
He's forced out of the race, and he's whining about his legacy.
Wait a minute. First,
Ariel,
and then you, Alia, and then you, Julian.
Okay.
Ariel.
And so this is just one example, right? Because we can bring it back to domestic as well. But this right wing, he's concerned with his legacy of how he views that, which is ridiculous, right? In the long run, in history, whatever. It's just his little ego trip that he's having in his own head that prevented him from ever putting down a red line with Netanyahu, from doing right in terms of Flint, Michigan, and so much else. It's all been about him from the start.
Well, let me say this also. Remember, and we all know, I can agree on this, the numbers that put him over because he said so. And the people who put him over, I'm talking about President Biden, who he became president because of African-American females. Let's be clear. African-American females. He said it. The numbers show it. African-American males, we're not going to leave them out. What can we get in 4 days? I agree with you. Reparations. That should be one. We should be talking about housing. We should be talking about education. HBCUs, that should be wiped out. That's a chunk change for what we're talking about in relationship to the international conversation. The HBCU dollars is really not big in terms of what we're talking about when we're talking about billions of dollars. He can wipe that out and move us forward on that. Not only just HBCUs, but other trade organizations and other institutions that are looking out for the African Americans who put him in office. This is what he said.
Livonia, respectfully, he has never paid attention to the people who put him in office.
Say it.
Clyburn and all those, even Kamala, we adore her, of course. All of them have given him a pass. So he has 4 days to make a difference. And from my humble opinion, I don't think he will. I hope that he'll do pardons, because that would make a difference in people's lives. People have been incarcerated, like somebody said, for reefer. We used to call it weed. I don't know what it is anymore.
And way back in the day, remember, I'm going to just say what it was. It was dope, weed, and now it's what?
I do
everything. But I want to go back to the
wait a minute. I'm going to jump back in because I got skipped and I was patient about it, but I want to jump back in for a second.
One thing with pardons. Let me say this. Remember, pardons are not just for the individuals who are incarcerated. Understand that. It's not just for the people incarcerated. It's for people whose lives have been, quote unquote, damaged, their lifestyles or whatever. So there is a breadth of people that could be in that lineup, that he could say, this is a complete pardon. And there are other types and different levels of pardon. So I just wanted people to share that.
One of the things, if we look back at last week when President Carter was laid to rest, one of the things that he did is he did blanket pardons. He did blanket pardons for Vietnam resistors. He pardoned, it turned out to be thousands of people that he pardoned. President Biden could do the same thing for drug offenders if he would. But, again, I don't have optimism. I do hope that he'll do reparations. If we go back to 2000, all 10 Democratic candidates supported reparations. All 10 of them.
Well, and first among them was, honestly, they came behind Dennis Kucinich.
Yes.
Dennis Kucinich, they were also, everybody was slow except Dennis. Dennis jumped out there. and said,
That is true.
I would do it. Oh yeah, no, because they were all slow.
No,
And
you're right.
they on that stage that night, he was the only one.
And
The
then they
only
all
one.
fell in. And then they all fell in because they were courting the black vote. And what black people have to understand is we cannot be giving our vote away
No.
to these low life, and I did say low life, these low life politicians who pander to us.
But it's not just the politicians. Politicians are elected, okay? We need to start looking at the power behind the politicians, the money, okay? Because this is a money-driven system. I've been in the room when I've seen the biggest politician the biggest politically the biggest elected official in the world go silent when certain people walk in.
I don't think that's going to happen in the next 4 years, though.
No,
I mean, where we're going is not a fiscally accountable, politically correct situation.
Let me tell you where I think we are. And Mark Fancher, who's a regular on this show, brilliant lawyer up there with you, Livonia, he said, and he kept saying, I don't think Trump and Biden are going to make it to the ticket. He said, and I had to revise that because Trump did make it onto the ticket and Trump won. They let him through. And from running for the presidency, we learned a lot. If they want you to come through, they will let you through or pull you through. They didn't want reverence, so I got it. I ain't mad.
But we're in
a
circumstance.
Wait a minute, Alia, let me finish this. Now he has a minder because these people still don't like Trump. But the quiet part is being said out loud now because the country is broke. But we got to print it. We keep printing money. Okay. We have lost so much capital socially, politically, fiscally, all around the world. So now you got the big boys who's sitting up there with him. What did Trump say about Elon Musk? He said he's the guest who won't leave.
And I want to say, I have to say this because you're absolutely correct. You said that the next 4 years will be different. You know why? Because what Trump did, has done it. He cut the deal before he was elected. He put the money man in the room, with him before he was elected. He cut the deal.
That's my point. We've got an oligarchy. And so when we start talking about fiscal accountability and straightening things out, we started with what needs to be done in the next 4 days. And frankly, I don't think we finished that conversation. I think that we focused on some things that were domestic, but there are other things that are both domestic and international that need to be looked at. We need protections around the people who will be on the ground. We for the next 4 years, trying to preserve whatever is left of our democracy. We need protections for those journalists. Dr. Malveaux said a minute ago, Dr. Malveaux said a minute ago, something about the blanket pardons. And that is certainly something that he could do around the journalists. We're talking about a president who has already said that he would be targeting journalists, that he would be targeting the judges and the lawyers who have only tried to hold him accountable under the law like any other American would expect to be. These are people that still need to be protected because guess what? He's a lame duck walking in office. He's a lame duck on day one. He doesn't have another term. And so if there's a chance to get America back, it's going to be because of the people who will have boots to the ground, mics in their ear or mics at their mouth. And he's got to put some protections in place. I don't think he'll do it because, he's been very disappointing on many fronts when it comes to his ability to do what's right.
It's that he has the ability. He doesn't have the will.
No.
He got a lot of guts. He's got
the desire. Even I don't think he's thinking of anybody right now. But he's still pouting that he got pushed out of the election. The only person that could and did beat Trump. He said so the other day.
He's so angry
spending
about
his last days in office pouting and thinking about himself.
Right.
Yeah, and he's not just pouting.
The man is 86.
He's not just pouting.
82 years old, and he's doddering in our faces.
No. He's been doing that for years. But he is so angry.
It's gotten worse. But now he's angry. Now he's angry. He's angry at all these people. And I don't think
he was angry. he was angry
But I don't think he's
before.
going to do
Let
anything.
me say this to you, because he let the people who ran Kamala's campaign did not like her,
Yeah,
and if they were his people.
exactly.
He did number one. Norman Solomon and Jeff Cohen for 2 years. They were not laughed out of the party. They angered the party establishment. They said, "Don't run, Joe." Roots Action said, "Look. You already said you'd be a transitional president, which means that's one term. So do us this favor, because everybody was watching you decline, but also your numbers are." He never got out from under.
No.
Would you move out of the way and let a field come in so they could at least run?
He went under 50% after the departure from Afghanistan, and he never picked back up. He was in the 30s entering this election season.
And it was before Afghanistan.
And what he could have done,
wait one moment. His high was the day he got in.
Yep.
And he continued to spiral downward. And we need to be, and I'm going to bring on Dr. LaShawn Latrice, who said, let me in, even though I didn't invite her, but it took her a minute to say.
But anyway, before Sister gets in, let me say this.
Dr.
He could have resigned in 2021 or 2. Kamala would have been president. She would have been an incumbent. That would have squashed all the BS. The fact is that he, as Ariel has said so many times, he basically jealously held on to power, and only when Nancy Pelosi, former speaker, got loud with his behind, did he basically push out. If he had done it differently, she might have won. We might have won. It wouldn't be perfect. Nothing is ever perfect in these United States, but we certainly would have had a better chance of winning. Instead,
and she had a better sense of justice across the court. If you listened to what she was saying, whether it was her early remarks on ceasefire, her pushes for education, for educational equity, for women's rights, for civil rights, she has at the core the right tenor to have moved us forward. But he kept the mic and he kept the floor. And now, look where we're going.
She has some complicity in this as well. She has complicity as well because she covered up Biden's BS. She covered it up and she played Mr. Bojangles on Gaza, on a number of things, fast dancing. I love her. She's a personal acquaintance. I'm from California, native San Franciscan. I love her dearly, but I think that she couldn't disrespect him, but she could come harder on a number of things, and she did it.
Well, I agree.
One of the things I want to say, one of the things I want to go back to, what the bigger picture, which really brings this forward. Remember, this is about money and votes. Yes. It's about, you have to understand that the basis of all of this. I don't care if we're talking about Gaza. I don't care if we're talking about Flint. I don't care if we're talking about San Francisco. What we are talking about is the power of money. Remember, the deal was cut before he was elected. So we're talking about something that we don't even have a control over right now. We're talking about somebody.
You have to understand the power of the oligarchy.
I mean, that's what I said. That's a word that people need to look up and understand. Oligarchy. What does it mean?
Well, it means we replace monarchy with oligarchs.
Yes.
Okay? That's all it means. And
I think that your listeners, Santita.
No. I talk to my listeners about this every day. And I tell them we went from a constitutional monarchy to a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. We have democratic aspects in the government. If you don't believe it, look at how our government is structured. If you are a U.S. senator, first, they just got elected a little more than 100 years ago. If a senator has to vacate their office, they're appointed. But if you're in the people's house, you got to run. Even if you got 2 days, you got to have an election. You can't walk into the U.S. House of Representatives. You got to run for the seat. You got to get it. That's one lets you know we're a republic. That is the U.S. Senate. The democracy is where you have the people's house. So what we need to do is understand how the world really works, everybody. And we keep playing, and I don't want to play. These things, the president is not the most powerful person in the world. No, they're not. There are people who are above them. If you don't believe it, ask JFK.
Look at Elon Musk. Speaking of oligarchy.
But I'm just saying, it's actually it's being played out, guys, in front of us. It's being played out right now.
I'm just saying, recognize and just
it's here.
Well, Santita, why would Elon Musk leave when he just bought a president for what, $300 million?
Elon Musk is not alone.
No,
it's not.
He's only one.
Even he, excuse me, is a proper noun for the oligarchy. I mean, the true oligarchs, the people who really run the world, you don't see. The people who run Chicago, you don't see.
That is true.
The very, very powerful people don't want to be seen.
That is true.
They don't. King Charles obscures his wealth. He's the wealthiest human being on the face of the earth. He's the only human being. It's not the crown. He is the only person who owns whole countries. Countries.
Besides the Pope.
They own countries. The Pope is a head of state. He's not just a religious figure. He issues passports.
Head of state. That's right. Absolutely. So we need to understand that. Yeah. And that's the game we're playing. That is where we are.
And you know what? When you run for president and you do extremely well, you got to go to the. We went to Rome, honey, in '84. So I was like, okay.
That's right.
Reverend Jackson surprised everybody. I said, okay, because this is how we do it. Come on, Montel, and that's for real. Now, LaShawn Latrice, now come on and sit down in your seat, Sean, so we can have you on here since you got on here, got loud in the chat, and said, "Let me in, let me in, let me in, let me in, let me in." LaShawn, are you hearing us? That's right. She's got her grandchildren and everybody. So, but I'm just saying, if we could get honest about how this thing is done. I'm not saying, and you know what? I'm not saying it's impossible to get some things done in 4 days. Because I'm saying, if we start lighting up the board and saying, wait a minute, y'all, we got the 2026 elections, we got the 2028 elections. If you want me to come through, I need you to do this. Because you are cutting all these checks for Ukraine and everybody else. Cancel the debt on the HBCUs.
Right.
We have DNC elections right now. Let's not neglect the DNC elections right now.
Right.
Well, excuse me, because you're in Detroit.
The DNC,
yes, I am.
DNC is part of the oligarchy.
What's happening? What's happening in Detroit?
DNC is part of oligarchy, and it doesn't matter who's the head of the DNC.
It does. No, it does matter who's the head of the DNC.
I mean, it didn't.
Let her, Julian.
It does matter who's the head of the DNC. We have some decent people running, and we do have a chance. I don't think we have any chance in the next 4 days to push Biden to do anything, but I'm willing to invest wherever I think we have a chance to make some progress. Is it everything? No, but it is something, and it is significant.
Is irrelevant.
It's a lot better than knocking on Biden's door. Who's got that door locked, padlocked.
DNC is irrelevant.
We do have good people running in the DNC, and the DNC is doing their best to give them as little airtime as possible and to make this election.
Who do you think are who are good people?
Wait a minute. And now that you posed the question, how should let her answer?
Well, I'm here with Dr. James Ogby, and he's running. For vice chair. And if nothing else, he will be a pain in the tush to the DNC for that time period. And that is needed, right? Because we have watched the DNC just go with the oligarchs. We have watched them push folks like Bernie Sanders out, and we need good people there. And sometimes we have to look, whether it's down ballot or it's the DNC, we have to look at places where we can amass some power and make some progress forward. So
And James Osby has walked the talk for decades. You're right,
the
Ariel.
ability to work
So,
on getting
I,
dark
I,
money
I
out of
love it. I think the
politics. So if
world,
we're
I think the
concerned
world
about
has Dr. Johnson.
oligarchy, there
I
is an
think the world has him.
opportunity
I don't
here
think he has
to
the prayer.
Stop,
decrease.
Julian. I can't hear her while you talking. You don't want anyone to interrupt you. Don't interrupt anybody else. Stop it, y'all.
So if
I'm
we're
not
concerned about oligarchy here, we
Anytime.
do have the ability at the DNC level to reduce, at least, I'd love to say entirely eliminate, but to reduce the power of dark money in politics. And that is a big deal. So let's not miss where we have opportunities. We have some good folks running. I don't know if Congressman Jackson is still considering. The race isn't over yet.
I haven't asked him.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
Well,
ask
before we go, I would like to say I'd like to bring it back home to where we
Don't
are,
worry.
what the possibilities are.
Just for the record, we got 18 more minutes.
Okay, thank you.
I really
All
want to
right,
hear
all
from
right,
this
thank
sister
you.
who just
I would
joined
like
us.
to
I'm about
I
to
would
bring
like
it
to
on.
suggest
You know,
I would like to
want
suggest that we put out there for the people who can make in 4 days, who can really make. I really believe in phone calls and texts and all that. I mean, I would hound a person to they have to leave office before they hear about. Can you imagine people calling about HR 40, the
Yes,
reparations?
please.
Can
Yes,
you
please.
imagine someone the divine nine saying we're going to
They
really
ain't gonna do it.
do that?
They ain't gonna do it. We have not even brought our sororities and fraternities in line on HR 40. Black people are not in line on HR 40. Some of us are like, oh, that's what's in. This is now. So, but I love everybody. We haven't heard from this sister, and I really would like to hear from her.
Well, yeah, I think I can do that. Just one moment. I gotta get her now. And now that you want everybody to shut up, you gonna jump in. Be quiet.
Moi,
I love Dr.
mean,
You know, I got my finger on the mute
This
button.
is family, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, girl, where are you? Get in here. You told me to get you in. What?
It is a lot going on. I was like, I'm there not. You know me, Santita. I can't jump in the middle of
No,
everything. It was a lot of good conversation, though.
well, I know she's a
Um,
community
I
psychologist.
just wanted
So
to
we
make
need
sure that you all heard my little 2 cents. I was saying that I agree about the reparations, and I agree about those impacted by the crime bill from 1994. But I also think that there are some pardons that are radically wrong, and they need to be made right. And I'm saying that we have a campaign for free Larry Hoover, free Jeff Ford here in Chicago. We talk about a lot of different things that have been done here in Chicago and what can be reversed with what's going on with the violence in the communities, and a lot of things that can be done positively by releasing them. But they also compare their cases to a lot of other cases where people have been pardoned. So, that's one of the things where I was saying something radical has to be done, but I don't know if Biden will do it, you all.
But you
no,
know
he
what?
won't.
I think to put it out there, I think, look, honestly, you've got to, if you don't ask, if you don't press, you're absolutely going to get it. But if you try, you just might. You're not always going to get what you want. I'm just going to put you on mute for a second.
Well, that's part of the reason why our community is pushing for pardons for the former H. Rap Brown, Imam Jamil Al-Amin. We're pushing for pardons in that direction. You're right, Santita. Throw it all at the wall. Maybe some of it sticks. But I think that, coming back to the core point, this is a president who has had 4 years. Now he's got 4 days. He's had more than 4 decades in office. What has he done really that was so aligned with us that we went out and we voted for him? Like Dr. Malveaux said, don't give your vote away. Last time it was a protest vote. It was we've gotta try to get away from what we've got, and he won on that. But what did he do for us? What did he really truly give us that was deserving of us? And we are not going to get anything in the next 4 days, but we darn sure need to be asking for the next 4 years and for every day after that. What have you done for me lately?
Well, see, I disagree.
And not
That's
just
why.
for the
That's why the
not
Everybody
just,
premise
used to
of
always
this,
say,
if I
closed
may
mouth
say this,
don't get
the
fed.
premise of this
Closed mouth don't get
conversation
fed.
was
So we
this.
have to raise our
Well,
voices. We have to make sure that this man hears us. But you're
but
right,
no, it's not even about
Dr.
him.
Aaliyah.
Wait,
It's
you
4
know what?
days. It's
Let me
4
say this.
days.
Let me say this. Let me say this because he's been in office 50 years. That's not my point. My point is if you don't ask, if you don't press, you are not going to get anything. But you have got to try. No, because we have a very middle class bourgeois perspective right here, an approach that always jams us. It is the black folks and the white folks and the people who are starving at the bottom who move things. Those of us on this panel who are comfortable do nothing because we want to get to the next dinner. I see us all at the Black Caucus dinner. I see us at the Correspondents' dinner. I get it. But it's the people who are restless and seek relief that Reverend Jackson talked about on July 17th, 1984, who gonna move us along. Because we're being cute. If they had a day, if they had an hour, they would push. And that's what we need to be doing. We don't have the right to say, oh, I only have 40. He's not gonna do it. I don't care what he wants to do. I didn't give you the presidency. I said, you know what, you're gonna get my vote, and this is what I need you to do. But we stopped asking, we stopped pushing. I saw that meeting that was leaked on The Intercept. It was an embarrassment. All of the top black leadership, Reverend wasn't there. Thank you, Jesus. And then he embarrassed them. He embarrassed. He said, look, I already gave you. He said it. He said, I gave you a black woman on the ticket. I'm not doing anything else. I did everything. Don't you remember that? Livonia? It was embarrassing.
And these 4 days could be a symbolic, if you want to. I can't think of a better word.
Cut this check. That's not symbolic.
Guess what? This should be a message. There should be a message in the 4 days. The 4 days could be an act. Hold on. The message could be in an action movement. An action movement, because we're talking about 2026. We're talking about 8. We need to let the Democratic Party know. Am I right, Julianne? Let the Democratic Party know, and all those individuals who are talking about money and votes in the Democratic Party, that we're not going to roll up and show up like we did the last time, unless you listen and cut the deal before you get the vote. That's what we're trying to say. That's where I am.
He gave $8 billion to Ukraine, to Israel the other week, on top of 20. $16 billion. Wait a minute, Julian. $16 billion would wipe out the debt. Not wipe out the debt. We are in arrears to these land grant colleges for $16 billion. They could cut that check. If we just had one thing.
The whole thing with Israel is a sick combination of over guilt from the Holocaust, over guilt, and under appreciation of the Palestinian rights. We really have to look at the fact that these are human beings. As black people, here's one of the things we have to remember. First, they were going to put Israel in Uganda. They were going to take
guilt. I don't think it's guilt.
Since I'm talking.
No, but wait, just hold on. You can say it that way. Wait, stop. Now, wait a minute. Wait. Now, hold on. Because I got the mic here because this is it. No. I am that, and I pay the price for it because I'm the one who's been put off the air on more than one radio station. I pay the price for it because I have conversations just like this. That's right, and I'll continue to pay the price because I want people like you, and you to have a voice because nobody is.
I appreciate that.
No. I mean, no. That's my obligation. So what I'm simply saying is, and so when I ask you, everybody, let us have a spirited dialogue, but let us be respectful and let us be careful about how we speak to each other, because you know what? We jump all over public officials and public people when we say something that sounds some kind of way. So all I'm saying to you is, when you say something to somebody, think of someone saying it to you and how that might make you feel. So let's start. If you want peace on earth, let it begin with you and me. Now.
Peace.
Now let me go back to what I was saying when
there you go.
Sister Ariel chose to bring her point up. The fact is that the nation, the world, was very horrified about the Holocaust. as well we should have been. The United States turned people away. Let's be clear about that. When there was an opportunity to bring people here, I
Sure
don't know
did.
why we did it, but we turned people away. So now we carry this burden of guilt. When the United Nations tried to figure out where Jewish people would go, I have to make this point. Y'all could disagree. They actually wanted to put this in Israel. They want to make a Jewish homeland, not in Israel, in Uganda.
And maybe even
What are they
Texas.
going to do with the black people in Uganda? You can do that, sister. I can do that too. We both got hands.
No, but
That's what they had intended to do. It did not work out. And so then they came over to Palestine and took people's land. They just took it, and it's never been resolved. And that's the underlying tension here, is that it's never been resolved. You have people who've lost their homes. You know, we're talking now about LA and people losing their homes. What about people who lost their homes 60 years ago? What about people who basically don't have their neighborhoods anymore? And there's been very little compassion for them. And so we, the United States, acts like, oh, it's all good. It's okay. It's not okay. And that's what we have to deal with. But as a Black woman, an African American woman, I have to start with the fact that so many of us are so disposable that they were actually going to try to take the country of Uganda and turn it into a Jewish homeland.
But you know, wherever they were going to place
I'd
it,
just love to respond real quick.
I want you to, but let me just say this: wherever they were going to place it, they were going to displace somebody, which is the colonial, the colonizers' thinking, which is a horror. But Ariel, because you still,
If we actually look back at the history, if we actually look back at the history of Zionism, it predates Jewish Zionism, which my family were big advocates of, but it actually predates Jewish Zionism, and it's Christian Zionism that comes before that. And I want to frame that in white European Christian Zionism that foresaw and dreamed of, and we're talking the 1800s, of a Jewish return to the land of Eretz Israel, whatever we want to call it, Palestine, Israel, historic
Palestine.
Israel, a return to that in order for the second coming of Jesus, at which time the Jews burn up. So Uganda was thrown around at one point by the Zionist Congress, which in fact my family were a part of, but that wasn't taken seriously. But what that does signify, and where this does come about, is the dehumanization of non-white people, whether they be Africans or Palestinians. And I just want to say, I don't think it's guilt in America. Certainly the Holocaust, was up there, but if America functioned on guilt, we got a lot to feel guilty for, but we don't seem to feel guilty for all of that. I think it functions on politics. A lot of that revolves around Christian Zionism as well, which is the largest support for Israel today. Jewish Americans, by and large, are losing support for Israel, whereas Christian evangelicals, that's the major support these days. But it's about dehumanization. And that's where that real battle is, that we are a country that has long dehumanized all of the other who are not the white male class, white European male class. And so certainly we helped set up a settler colonial project in Palestine that displaced people, and did so with people that, had just survived a genocide. But also, if we're going to talk reparations, a look at post-Holocaust sets actually a pretty good example for what reparations could look like, because there have been reparations. There have been reparations from Europe, and that's actually have been done reasonably well.
And one of the things, when you say use up, they not only the Jewish community, but the African American community. As I'm gonna go right back to how we got here and where we are as a people, middle class, the poor, Black people bought into the message. They bought into the Democratic message, and we gave our support. Ain't mad about that. And look where are we today with that? So I'm saying whatever we can do in the next 4 days, we need to put that on the table right now. So when they come to us in what?
In 2
In
years.
2025,
No, no, excuse me, in a year.
in a year. When they come to us in a year, they will understand, know, feel it, believe it. They can no longer take 95% of African American females and 82% of the African American males and use and abuse and dump them when they feel like it. That's where I am.
What we need to look at and what we need to do is to come back to the idea of the rainbow, right? Um, we need to come back to the idea that humanity is important because, Ariel has a great point. I think great points have been made by everybody on the panel. I'm honored to be here. But when we look at what is happening, whether it's Flint or Gaza or California and the wildfires, what we're consistently looking at is a disregard to human suffering, a dehumanization of certain people over and over. And while we might not always be able to fight money, I'm fond of saying money makes commercials, but money can't pull a lever in the voting booth. People vote. And if we begin to get people together around those issues, like Santita was talking about, when it comes to who's the little guy that keeps getting ignored in this, well, guess what? It's all of us, and it's people like us all over the world. My suffering as an African American, as a Muslim, is no different than that of a Palestinian, specifically that of Afro-Palestinians who are so invisible in this discussion that even Black people don't talk about them. But the mayor of Jericho asked my group when we were in Palestine, asked us to bring it home, to mention the presence and the existence of Black Palestinians and connect them to the Black diaspora. And so when we talk about things and it seems like it's foreign, it's not foreign because we're one human family. So yeah, we need reparations and we need women's rights and we need protection from tyranny and we need and we need and we need. But at the end of the day, if we can get people to see that we truly are more alike in our needs for basic human dignity and advancement, then we can move forward. Everything else, every time that we sort of get into debates with each other, even here, it's because as educated and involved as we are, we can't resist the programming that constantly attempts to separate us. And so we gotta decolonize our minds and help everyone out there to decolonize their minds. We're in this fight together.
Folks,
one of the things I would like to say,
my phone is blown up because I'm supposed to be on a Zoom call right now.
Well, we love you. I want you to give your closing thought. Dr. Melbo?
Thought is I agree with Dr. Leah. We're in this thing together. There's so much work that needs to be done. We need to figure out how to do this thing together. We have coming in an oligarch who has been purchased by other oligarchs, but we also have tools. And some of our tools are to fight back, to resist, to actually create this conversation. I'm very grateful to you, Santita, for this conversation. Laboni and I go back. I don't know these other two, but they basically have made really great points, and I look forward to continued connection. Dr. Ron Daniels has blown up my phone because I'm supposed to be on a Zoom call with him. So I appreciate you, ladies. All respect. If I don't agree, I don't agree, and I will tell it.
But let me tell you something before you go. I don't mind the disagreement. I'm from a family. My parents had 5 kids, and we used to have debates and arguments. That was the entertainment after the house dinner. And we would literally, somebody was going to be Latoya Jackson, Michael Jackson, whatever the big case of the moment, we were going to do that. But what you have to do, we have to be very sensitive to each other. It's the respect. It is, you know what? And I'm not always successful at it. But getting on the other side of what you say, and more than that, what you think about someone.
I love you guys.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love
Appreciate
you.
Y'all.
All
Appreciate
right,
y'all. Take care.
But I mean this, and I'm very, very serious.
Take care.
Much love, Lavelle. You and I need to talk.
love you. That we have got to be very careful about how we approach each other. Um, if if you want your point to be, if you want to be heard, you can't talk over someone else and drown them out. We've got to grow in how we relate to each other and give each other the space. And that's what I'm seeking to do. I don't know if Dr. Latrice is going to join, respond to my text, and let me know if you're available to be joined. But this is the Santita Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And if you want to hear some more of this conversation, stay with us. But if those of you who I have to say goodbye to, I will. But we're having a great time here. But just stay right here, everybody. All right. So, but I just think it's important that we really be respectful of each other. And I'm very sensitive because also I'm from coalition politics. And my mother said, nobody could be absolutely right in the house. She says, your father and I would have to go back and figure out how to strike a balance between 5 very different people and then us. And so she said, we were always trying to manage how we were going to keep the family together. So that's my background. I've never had the luxury of having everything my way. It just, I've never lived like that. It's just because it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. Everybody else has their 24 hours in a day. And I think that's part of the challenge that we have now in this moment. We're not looking at life or people through different lenses. This is the Santita Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I just, we've got to do that. We've got to stop demonizing people. Because a lot of people voted for Trump for a whole lot of reasons. Some of them had nothing, Livonia, to do with Black people or anybody. Folks are in so much pain. They are doing everything. Folks cannot afford eggs. And
$7.
Do you remember this? Oh, somebody paid $8 here at Walgreens. There is do you remember the Good Times episode where they had this neighbor who everyone really, really liked, but they heard she was eating dog food. So she came to the Evans household. I'll never forget this episode. And she had made a meatloaf. And they were all looking around at the table. They said, no, I don't want it. I mean, even Florida and James was a little uncouth, but Florida was like, no, we're not. You know what? We'll have these vegetables. We're gonna have we. And she finally said, yeah, I eat dog food because that's all I can afford, but I would never do that to you. She said, yeah, but I have to do it. You do know some people are doing that right now.
Yeah.
You do know some people. When Rashida stands in the U.S. House of Representatives, her grandmama is on the West Bank.
That's right.
Right.
That's
Right.
I can tell y'all right now, and I've said it many times, when my grandmother was alive, because my mother's mother stayed at my parents' home in Washington. She just loved being there. And she was the little mayor of LaDroit Park.
She was.
But my father's mother never wanted to leave Greenville, and she never did. And storms would go through there, and I would be scared to death. Because that's my grandmama.
Right.
Not my grandmother, that's my grandmama. Are you okay? Oh, yes, honey, I'm doing just fine. And these children just going to pass on over, just going to pray. I'm like, what if they were bombs? See, the Congresswoman, the bombs are raining around her grandmama and on her.
That's right.
I talk to people in the West Bank every day, and as you know, I came in under missile fire, and so I get it.
Yeah.
I'm very connected to what's happening,
and I'm connected.
because
I'm connected to Haiti.
I was going to say,
look,
listen,
I'm worried about Haiti, and I'm worried about Sudan.
No,
but I just so happened to have had to run into the bomb shelter in Tel Aviv.
Oh no!
And so,
my mother did the same thing. That was her first experience in the Middle East in '79.
Exactly.
But my mother's father went back to that part of the world. He's Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he had other children.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm sure,
Santina,
you
I'm
know,
glad you brought up Haiti because I wanted to say that earlier. That
Right.
here we got a country,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then we have citizens who were here were
Yes.
abused, and you're saying how insensitive people were,
yeah.
and frankly, I don't think people went to their rescue. Frankly, I did
No,
not.
they did not.
I
No,
mean,
they
I
did
really,
not.
No.
they did not, did they? They did
No,
not.
they did not.
But guess what? Haiti is in the condition that really you don't talk about going on a cruise to Haiti, and why not? Because the United States has not been putting up the money that they could put up to build a country. To
Well, just
that is
remember that
But you know we have in Haiti.
When the Red Cross got donations for
yes,
Haiti, I think it was 30 billion, they built
Mhm.
3 houses.
But
So,
you know we have
so
in Haiti. We have the biggest the biggest American embassy in the hemisphere.
That's
mhm,
right.
What we do to Haiti, we go there and we take. When they
yeah,
had
Yes,
that earthquake there, and I saw
yeah.
all
Oh,
the
and I,
people running over
mhm,
there, I said, huh, this is interesting. What does all of this mean? What it meant was they were going down there to rape the country once again.
yes,
That's
right.
what they
yes,
have done.
Yes.
And that,
Yes.
yes,
that is what they continue to do. So
yes.
it's like enough already.
And we
But
need to
that's where
speak
the
to that.
dehumanization comes in
Of
because
course.
over and over, I mean, look at who we're talking about. When we talk about marginalized people, we are not so quietly also talking about the colonialist oppressors who have a real consistent face and a real consistent method of going about these things.
That's
And they
right.
come in over and over and over. Look at the people who are dying and starving in the Sudan. You know, how can you line up to prevent people from having food? How can you watch people starve? We've gotten to a point where everybody's connected by the internet and we don't see each other as human enough to actually care about the backstory. And so, that's why I want protection for people like the journalists who are out there telling the truth and getting the story out.
Mhm. But you know what we do now? We kill journalists in the United States. Because
Hmm.
we remove them from their employment.
Yes. Yes.
And what we're doing, and if no, wait a minute, if you want to see colonialism, all you have to do is go to an indigenous reservation.
Hmm.
Now,
Yes.
if you want, we ain't got to leave the United States. You can stay
Right. We're
No,
living
right
on
here
stolen land.
no.
Yeah.
because they have the worst health outcomes, financial
Education.
outcomes. Those
Right.
who have not been assimilated into the white race, who've remained
Right.
indigenous, they are the poorest, sickest people in the United States, and they live in the most awful conditions.
Right.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
I mean, if you really really care, I'm we're really going to talk about what needs to change. Yeah, we need to have some serious talks about what we do, the stuff that we're looking at every day, but we look right on past it.
Right.
But
Yeah,
that's why I was saying, I'm not content with, well, I mean, because it's always the upper class and upper class black folks who will tell you why we can't do this. I heard
Right.
people because they were telling us why Jesse Jackson couldn't run. And
right,
it was the black folks in
right,
the streets who were like,
Hmm.
no, you better run.
Yeah.
right.
Jesse. Eddie Murphy even had a routine about it on one of his live albums. He said, "Oh yeah, Jesse, you better run, man. Run, Jesse, run, run." I mean, and we've got to be very careful, Livonia and Dr. Amar, because our when we get disconnected from the streets,
Hmm.
we don't survive.
We
Yeah.
don't.
It's
We
it's
don't.
these
We
Yeah.
don't.
it's these people who
We
it's these
don't.
people down in the Delta. These people
Right.
down on the ground who's saving our people. We get to the dinners and we get cute.
That's right. I like to share with you. Yesterday, I had an experience. There, it's 10 below. You know, you're in
Hmm.
Chicago.
Hmm.
It's 10
Hmm.
below here.
Is
Hmm.
it really?
I, I mean, it was 16
Hmm.
degrees yesterday,
Hmm.
and they were taking me to an appointment, and as I was passing the bus stop, there was a woman. She had to be no more than maybe 20, 22. She had 3 children with her. This is dead of winter. One was in a stroller with a blanket over. So that meant that was an infant in the stroller.
Yeah.
Then there was a person who stood maybe 2 feet, had to be no more than 5 years old, and the other one was 3 because they were like 2 feet. And she was standing out there. And I said, we got to do something. We can't let her stand there. Your point is well taken, doctor, and yours too, that we, even on the local government needs to look at people. They're not just numbers. They're not a statistic in the welfare line.
Right.
These are
They're not.
And Ali,
I sent my mom, I'm sorry, I sent my mom a meme recently because my mom raised the 3 of us. And I sent her something that someone had put on the internet, and it said, I never saw a man walk on water, but I saw my mother stand in the snow waiting for the bus so that she could pay the rent. Some of us define wholly differently. And I think about, our connection. I get it, Santita. I got to drive an hour and a half to get to Iman so that I can help Inglewood. It's the neighborhood I was born in, but I wasn't raised in Inglewood. Our people have always been trying to, strive and move into better circumstances and help us to advance. But we do have to keep it in our mind, like you're saying, and it's a wonderful reminder, to stay connected to the root problem. We are not free until we are all free, and we are very far away from being all free. And I include my brothers and sisters, indigenous and international, within it, because that struggle is global. When they create a they and a them, the they that's always us is always kind of the same. We're brown skinned. We're not as rich as everyone else. We've got some stereotypes against us. That's why nobody stood up for the Haitians in the way that they could have, because people buy into that stuff so quickly. But we don't have to lose it. We just have to bring people back to the idea that humanity is really at stake, our personal humanity.
And we have to,
and that goes back to
honest.
the theme. That goes back to the theme of Rainbow Push. Rainbow Push.
Yes, that's why I keep saying the rainbow.
All of the people that of all colors, and the only organization, I could be wrong, only organization I saw last week dealt with the situation around Haitians here in America was Rainbow Push. Now, I'm sure there are other organizations. If I missed you, I'm sorry, but I got a little connection with the Rainbow Push. My point back to everybody, but I watched this go on during the election. There was no wrapping their arms around a community that was being harassed by the international media. Harassed. They were actually being defined, harassed, and abused by international media because they were saying that human beings like you and me were eating dogs and cats. Now, I was outraged. I mean, to the point where I was about to blow up, and literally someone shared. I'm gonna just tell the story. Someone shared phone. You can't go to Ohio by yourself. You might be abused driving there. I was outdone. I said, what are we gonna do about it? I don't even know if it was 500 there. 5,000 didn't matter. But I want to say to brothers who look like me and sisters, I don't know if we didn't show up the right way. I just don't think we did for the Haitians here.
We have not. We have, but when you're black, get back. When you're brown, you stick around. When you're yellow, you mellow. When you're white, you all right. And we have got to grow beyond that, because you know what? All white people do not feel this way. Like all folks are not freedom fighters. But let me get to this to the issue of the journalist, because Livonia is an award-winning journalist.
Yes.
On both sides of the lens and both sides of the mic. The fact is, we don't have a free press. And we don't admire and we don't support those who are free. The freest members of the freest journalists have had to leave main corporate media because they have no protections. I mean, what's happening over in the Middle East with these journalists is not an accident.
No, they're murdering them.
Yeah, well, but we
Yeah.
do that too, because when you take someone's livelihood from them, when you take their job from them, what do you think you're doing to them? We do that here in the United States. If you speak the truth, if you write the truth, that you get marginalized and you get put out.
Mhm.
That, I mean, that is what we're doing. And I think I'm just saying, I just want us to really step back and look at what we really have going here.
Mhm.
Because what we really have going here is that. I mean,
Right.
we don't have freedom here. And if we're not honest about that, and I just I want us to just step back and say, wait a minute, I don't want us to stop fighting.
No.
Because that's the thing when we say, well, he won't do. No, 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 no. In the last few days of his presidency, he decided he went public with what he was already going to do. He freed his son, and the Justice Department said
Mhm.
we've never seen a pardon structured this way. So they
Mhm.
got him for the old and the new, and to protect people who were adjacent.
Yeah.
Don't
That was
so
a
don't
wasted
so
vote.
let, let
That was a wasted vote back
well,
then. He really didn't deliver.
when
I
folks try
I
to
hate
tell
to
you,
run. I've got to run because
I love you. I
I'm
love you.
out of
What do you want to
safety.
say?
So,
Because
but honored to be a part of this panel again. Thank you so much.
my
And
crazy
Livonia,
panel,
it is such an honor.
my
Always for me
crazy
too.
panel, all my
Thank
all
you.
my panels are just nuts. And every time I get you women together, it gets nutty. Let me tell
It
you.
does. Bye bye.
I'm always glad to be here.
Well, you know what? Before we go, I want to thank you. I want to thank you. I mean, for putting a lot of pepper in here, but it was great. But also, um, I love the way that you do that, because you bring people together and you bring them in. I think that that is important. Um, because we've got to, we really do need to talk with each other, and I don't mind us getting into it, getting a little pugilistic. I don't mind that at all. I just want us to do it respectfully,
Yes.
because we can't do and be all of our complaints that we have about the other side, if you will. We do the same thing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to be what I see.
No.
I want to be
No.
what I dream,
Right.
right?
And all
Yeah,
that I can be.
all that I can be.
Yeah. Right. And I
So,
always think it sounds, and probably my good friends will say, I always think, what would mom say? What would
oh,
dad say? What
oh,
would grandma say? We are representing nations of people, but we're
mhm.
also representing those folk in our neighborhood. What Miss Jones down the street from you, what would she say if you
Oh
had
my God.
conversation just going? You see what I'm saying? So you have to break it down. Sometimes for some people, you got to break it down. What would the pastor say? What would the principal of the school say? What would the coach say that really loves you and say, oh, well, we had a blowout on television or on radio.
But
You see?
Livonia, to your
Mhm.
point,
Yes.
that is why when you look at a lot of the people who are picked for leadership, and that's what
Mhm.
we're seeing, let's be very
Mhm.
honest about it.
Mhm.
They're not rooted.
Mm.
They're parentless. They don't have
Yeah.
parents, so they're the only one. David Chappelle said, people wanted to know why I went to Africa. Many people do not know that when Patrice Lumumba, who became the seminal figure in the struggle to free the Congo, when they were putting together their government, they sent for his parents,
Mhm.
brilliant educators, so that they could help to form the education system for the Congo.
Mhm.
That's his background. He
Right.
said, I had a lot of fun on my show. Oh, yeah, it was great. He said, but then I'd go home.
Mhm.
And my aunt, because he said, I'm the only one in my family who didn't go to college.
Mhm.
But I'm glad he didn't go, because that saved him from being a little too tight.
Mhm.
I think, he had some experiences that kept him very expanded, if you know what I mean.
I do. I do.
Just,
Right. In terms of what
like,
his
I mean,
vision.
when Aretha Franklin wanted to go to Juilliard, I was like, and even the people at Juilliard were like, well, why do you want to do that?
Mhm.
You should, if you want to teach here, you can, but what
Mhm.
teach you? She was like, oh, but I've always wanted to do what? Leontine Price said, you're the voice of God. Come on, Aretha.
Right.
Leontine said this. She said,
Mhm.
no, if God had a voice, that
It
would
would
be,
be yours.
yeah, it would be
Yes.
yours. So if Leontine, who everybody's, I mean,
Right. For her to say
nobody,
that was major.
nobody has ever been better at what she did. She is
Right.
great
Right.
now, the personification of it. So I'm only saying, when he said, I came home after I'd done some skit, and he said, you know, I'm kind of feeling good about myself. He said, and then my aunts came to me and they said, what was that about?
See?
And he said, and I felt awful. And they said,
Mm.
don't you ever do
Mm.
anything like that again. And let me tell you why. And they broke it down for him. And see, when you have people, they don't want the folks who have, if my father didn't have my mother, he'd be all right.
Mm-hmm.
But they know my mother's a real one.
That's right.
And there's some things that
That's right.
she was gonna say, no.
That's right.
And she was,
Consistent too. Consistent.
yeah. And so no, she wasn't going, they weren't gonna work because no matter what, he still wanted her. The one person who looks at him and goes, uh-uh.
Yeah.
No. That's not gonna work.
Mm-mm.
And she always loved his, no, he'd say, no, we've made our point as we've run for president. Now it's time for us to go home. Because
Mhm.
we've gone as far as we can go with this, and that's going to be that.
Mhm.
Because many people don't realize that in '92 he was the front runner.
Mhm.
So when he decided not to run, it threw it threw the race into disarray. But then it freed Bill Clinton up to try and bury
It
him.
did. It did.
So that's because
I,
that's what he was sent to the race to do anyway, because he was a better candidate than Al Gore. So he was in the race to take Reverend all the way out.
Mhm.
So when he
Mhm.
couldn't take him out in the race, he started taking him out by making comments about him. Now, mind you, I love Bill Clinton, and we've worked out a wonderful relationship because guess what? One of the things that we learned with him was this was about power. And we need to be clear on that. That's why I'm saying to you, like you said, you made the brilliant point. Democrats, you need to be in 2026. We haven't even
That's
got to
right.
28 because Hakeem Jeffries could become the Speaker of the House. He's 4 or 5 votes away from that. And you need to let Biden know that. But I'm not so sure that he would mind seeing us take another loss because he looks so angry. He looks
I
so
agree.
angry about everything. I saw how they shaded Kamala at that funeral. I was like, wow, she sat there and she looked straight ahead and then she's got Barack and Trump kikiing behind her. I said, sweetie, yeah, this is called power.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. You need to understand that it's about money and votes that equal power. And it's not just it's almost I'm gonna just say the church, the school, the family, the country, the world. And you're right. I keep telling folks there are people we'll never see, never know who are controlling the
The
White
people,
House, the outhouse. They are.
people
I'm
who
not
are
making
running
it up.
this thing, you keep talking about. If you can talk about them, they're not in. They ain't running nothing
No, they're
because
not.
the people, except for the
Yes.
advocates, the
Yes.
Martin Luther Kings, the
Yes.
Jesse Jacksons, because they stirreth up the people. Okay, so that is their job. But Pharisees, you never see.
And what happened, some of these individuals, I'm going to use Clarence Thomas' situation, for example.
Mm.
For years, think about it, for 20 some years, his strings were being pulled by those billionaires. And I know they are very disturbed that they got exposed. That wasn't
Did you
their
hear what you
intent.
just said? They got exposed.
They got exposed. That wasn't the plan. For
No, 'cause
20 years, I used to figure out why isn't he not writing anything, moving anything, saying anything, or doing anything. Now we know they
but
got
no,
exposed.
we knew before that because they got him in high school.
Yes. Okay.
Because
Oh,
everyone,
that's right.
that's the game. That's why I understood why they were sending me through the hoops to go for Harvard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because no, I didn't fit with them politically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to learn, wait a minute, I'm thinking that I need to be this merit scholar. I'm thinking I need these high SAT scores. I need to have these top
Mm-hmm.
grades. I got
Mm-hmm.
all that, and wait a minute, that's not what the problem. My problem for y'all is my politics.
Yes.
Oh, so
Yeah.
now I get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh. Solomon, all you have to do is look at the video. And see, this is not personal, Solomon. When you talk about the shade, this is power.
Power.
Okay, and we need to understand power. Remember, Black people have only had the right to vote 59 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
1870, yeah. That was the constitutional amendment that gave Black men, not Black women, but Black men the right
That's
to
right. Black women weren't
vote.
voting.
No.
Could not vote.
No. And then when they had the march, the suffragette march, they told Black women, Delta Sigma Theta, whoop, they
That's
told
right.
us to get to the back of the
To the
line.
back.
Now we could
Absolutely.
do that, but they were not going to let us march with those lovely ladies in white
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
because we were Black.
Mm-hmm.
We did not move to the back of the line. So there's that. So I'm simply saying to you that we need to understand how power really works and what it
Yes.
really looks like.
That's right.
And that is what you were saying. That's why I was saying, wait a minute, honey. No, I mean, don't tell me, don't make Joe Biden a centrist. He never was a centrist. He was always to the right of the party, which is why he was not working in 2020 when he was running in the primary, because
Mm-hmm.
the country's moved all the way to the left.
Yes.
That's why Bernie was working,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't want Bernie because
Mm-mm.
he was going to rock the boat.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Right.
So, okay, this is how they do it. And for people who give Bernie Sanders fever now because he's in the US House, US Senate, and he's not doing X, Y, and Z, let me tell you something. I got a brother I've had two brothers in Congress. Let me tell you something. It's one thing to run. It's another thing to be in Congress, and you know this better than anyone else because you are a creature of DC. You know that.
27 years.
You got number one, you got to try and craft legislation and get it passed. You got to get along with 434 other people, y'all. Now you go on and get along with your tribe. Good luck. Good luck.
No.
It does not
And at the
work
same
like
time, you got to build relationships where you can raise funds to move a situation with the lobbyists and to run the next time around. It's constant fundraising, policy writing, all day long. From the day you're sworn in, I accept.
management. But wait a minute,
From the
hold
day
up.
you,
Now I'm just adding to what you're saying. You just
Mhm.
manage it. I mean, it is its own thing. My
Yes.
brother said of Hakeem Jeffries, he said the difference between Hakeem and the rest of us is that I worry about one race, mine. He's
He
got
worries.
200 plus other races to worry about, and really 400 plus.
Mm-hmm.
He said
Mm-hmm.
so. His view is very different. And people, we have a whole lot of we make a cast a whole world of judgment on a lot of people when you have not walked. You haven't even put on their shoes, let alone walked in them.
That's true. That's true.
You
That's
you,
true.
you don't know what people are going through. I remember when Kitty Dukakis went to Hazelden in the closing weeks of the campaign in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew what Hazelden was because it's a big clinic for addictions. And quite frankly, I had always struggled with my weight, so I thought I was going to have to go there for food. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, maybe that'll be the place. And I was really reading about them because I was going to go to my parents and ask them if I could go. My
Mm-hmm.
father would have said yes, but I don't, because he said, I don't think you got an addiction, but if that's what you think, okay. But
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about it, but I knew immediately what she had gone to do. And I remember calling my father because he was campaigning, and because it was the closing weeks of the campaign. And I said, Daddy, this is so sad. How, because when you're campaigning, you get to know everybody.
Yes.
And you at least meet folks' children, blah, 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 all of that on both sides. And you end up, there's a camaraderie because you're in the same meat grinder. And he said, baby, just remember this. There's always a lot of private pain in public life.
Mm-mm.
He said, so I've called Michael and we've prayed and we just pray for them because you know how hard this is. And everybody, just as we live through this moment, Solomon, yeah, I would even say pray for President Trump because even though he's someone with whom you may not agree, certainly someone I did not vote for, he's the president. And I need some wins, Livonia. I can't wait. Some kids aren't eating tonight. I can't wait 4 years to. I got insurance, and I've got a warm place with a roof over my head. Some people don't have that tonight. Some people are in tents
I
in
saw
North
them
Carolina.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait,
I saw a family yesterday on the bus
you
stop
yeah on the
in the
bus stop.
dead of winter in Detroit that had maybe one coat, no scarves. I said, we have to do something. And that's just an example. One example.
Livonia, which means we can't wait.
No, we can't.
So I gotta know. So I
We don't
got.
have the luxury of waiting.
I ain't got the
We
luxury of
never
waiting.
did.
I can't. Thank you. I can't wait for 2026.
No, we got to work. We got to continue working now. I'm going to pray for the country. I'm not there yet, trying to pray for somebody else, but I will pray for the country. I will pray for the country because we got to pray for one another. And I will continue to work. I mean, at a point, I was like, I'm walking away from this. This is just too much. This campaign was this. But I said, no, can't do it. Can't do it. You got to keep your 10 toes on the ground. And you got to keep your voice out there. And I thank you so very much for this opportunity. Always, we got to keep telling the story. The message has to be told, and it has to be told where people at all levels can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes we talk, you alluded to it earlier. Sometimes we just talk way above other individuals.
Yeah.
No, the message has to be, I'm with you. I'm your sister. I look just like you. I look like you. I look like the sister who had the 3 babies on the bus stop, just like her. If it wasn't for the difference between my mom and dad and hers, I would have probably been on the bus stop. You see? And we have to say that to one another, that I could be in the middle of Detroit at 16 degrees with 3 babies. If it was not for the grace of God
That's
and
all.
the support.
That's all. I mean,
That's
all
it.
I'm saying to you is, while you mad with Trump, you could be mad with some Democrats who
Yes.
protected someone who was struggling,
Yes.
who did not give Kamala and a whole bunch of people a chance.
Yes.
So while folks are getting angry, I just want
You're getting busy.
Get busy. I mean, because you don't have the luxury. Reverend, I
No.
used to say you don't have the luxury of a negative thought.
No.
I
No.
don't have that kind of time. I know
No.
whatever you feel. Some people got the word to Omarosa, and she went to Howard.
Yes.
The HBCU office was moved out of the White House under the Obama administration, which meant we were going to get less attention. Would you ask the president to move the office back in the White House? We're closing dormitories at Morehouse, the alma mater of Dr. King. We've lost 40,000 students from 2009 to 2016. You remember that, Livonia?
Yes.
And you know what Omarosa did?
Bennett College was suffered really, as we know.
All of them. 40,000.
Yeah.
That's 40,000.
Mm-hmm. Morris Brown.
And you know what she did? She got the HBCU office put back in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Then we started getting monies again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying to you all, we've got to be a little bit smarter about our politics.
Yes.
Don't make all these presumptions. Yeah, we might have to fight harder, but you know what? You keep talking about Jesse Jackson's run for the presidency. He didn't do that under Carter. He did that under Reagan,
Mm-hmm.
who
Mm-hmm.
was the Trump of his day.
Mm-hmm.
Reagan had one of his opening campaign events in Philadelphia, Mississippi, which is famous and only known for being the site of the murders of Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney. They don't have a bus stop. Yeah. You got to go to the next town or towns over to catch a
Mm-hmm.
bus. They don't even stop in
Mm-hmm.
that town.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So I'm just saying to you, enough already.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm
you
not.
know
We
what?
should not spend our energy on the negative side because we got too many issues that impact our lives and the lives of those in our community. And that community could be Jewish, it could be Muslim, it can be African American, it could be Asian, it could be whatever. But because one thing for sure, when my mother always said, when if a we looking at let's look at L.A. LA, the fire doesn't have color. The fire didn't say, well, I'm going to go in this neighborhood or that neighborhood and those individuals or that income or that education or those children or it didn't, the fire took everything out. Everybody was impacted at every level,
And they
every race,
lost
every
and
color.
they lost everything, Livonia.
Yes, yes,
Every tangible
yes.
memory that these people had, they lost.
Yes, and it was
Y'all think about
significantly
that.
right. Yeah, and always remember each pain, the person's pain is relevant to where they are. Remember, you said it earlier. The pain that someone carries may be different than the pain that you carry, but it's pain, it's their pain, and you have to recognize it and acknowledge it because you don't. And your dad said that silent pain, you don't even know.
You
You
don't
have
know what
no,
people are going through.
no,
You,
no.
Livonia, that's all I'm trying to say. I don't know, and I'm gonna tell you what happens. And thank you, Ethelene. You saying you have a progressive platform that explains the lack of watchers. The thing is, I actually got up to and my show gets watched. I've had just a couple of weeks ago after they had passed the show around. We had like 1.5 million, almost 2 million views.
Wow, good, good, good.
And what they do is they suppress your algorithm
Mm,
because every now and then, like last week, we're talking, I'm watching the numbers pop, 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 pop. We had like 400, 500 people at one time. Then a couple of weeks before that, it was almost 1,000 people at one
mm-hmm,
time.
mm-hmm,
But then they will shut you down at the lean, and yeah, and they will tell my people that I'm going to be on an hour later or an hour earlier. It's all in the algorithm. So do me a favor, everybody. Just share
okay. Share,
the show, and tell people
like
about
and share, or just
it.
share.
Like and
Like and
share,
share,
like
like
and
and
share,
share.
like and share. When you
Okay,
like when you like it, it pushes up the numbers. But
okay.
but that's what they do, and Facebook shuts down because I got to a point where I had 3 million streams a week, and I guess my platform was too progressive, ethylene, and
Mm,
then they start and Facebook starts calling you, and they tell you this is where you're strong, and I got shut down.
mm.
But we're going to keep on going and keep on growing. So if you would do me this favor, Ethelene, just share the show. And thank you so much. You said you have a progressive platform that explains the lack of watchers. And plus, I've been moving around too. But thanks for being a unifier and not a divider. You're a progressive. Thank you, sweetheart. You're a progressive dim like me, and you're a huge fan of my father, like me. Oh yeah. Well,
Oh,
I see him as a man of tremendous courage, and
yes.
someone who really walked away from a lot that the world was offering him because he wanted to do right. And I can only I can only have the greatest amount of respect for him because he's had the option to do some other things.
So
And so
true.
thank you. But no, but I thank you, Livonia, for standing not just with him, you all were all standing together when it was not popular. People forget that
Mm.
84, we were trying to figure it out. Literally, we had so little money in that campaign that oftentimes our staff would jump in the cars with the press because they could pay. They had expense accounts, and they would write about it. They were like, "This is the craziest campaign." Then we get to an event, and there are 50,000 people or a church that holds 1,000 people. There are 10,000 people outside. We've never
That's
seen
true.
anything like this
That's true.
before because you know what? It gave people hope, and we gave them a lot of wins too.
Sure did.
And so,
Local wins in the South, in the
oh,
North. I mean,
everywhere,
everywhere in the country, there
everywhere.
were, it had never happened. Local wins all over the country because he touched the people. He went
That's
to the
right.
community. He was, and
Well,
he
no,
told us,
they told them to run.
that's
They
right.
told them to run. That's why you got Doug Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Wilder became lieutenant governor in '85,
Mm-hmm.
and became governor in '89
Mm-hmm.
because our people won. So
Yes.
what he did was he got our list, our voter registration list, and the infrastructure of our campaign, and ran and won.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
I
Right.
get,
Impact. The
impact.
impact. Right. And we
So
can still see, I can still see it today though. When we're talking about our good friend in New Orleans, Cleo
oh yeah, yeah.
Fields.
Oh, he's back in Congress.
That's what I'm saying. I can
Yeah,
still
yeah.
see the rainbow flavor,
Oh
the
yeah.
rainbow connection, the fervor of it. It hasn't gone away. There are some people who have said, "I'm coming back," and he's an example of that. That's all.
And the Democrats didn't give him a dime.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Rainbow flavor and not a dime from the Democrats. Just think
And
about
this
that.
and this is a proven vote getter. Cleo came out of the '84 campaign and became a state senator at the age of 21. Remember that? He
Yes.
was he was president of the student government at Jackson. No, excuse me, at Southern University, and ran for office. And he did something no one had ever done before. He ran for office and won.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few years later, he ran and became the congressman. He was the first person to be, I think he's first black man to win a seat to the U.S. House of Representatives since Reconstruction. Okay. And you want Carol, my sister from another mister, wants my mother to come on and say hello. And I don't know. I keep asking her, and she keeps saying, "We'll see." My mother is very private. Plus, she wants to go on and do what she wants to do during the day, and that ain't that ain't this. But I'm gonna get her on one day, Carol. Don't you worry about it. When you gonna come to Chicago, Carol? How about that part?
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying that. So we got to plan something, so we can all get our morning stars together and have a wonderful time in Chicago and have some days in Chicago. And but hey, it's been a great life, and I'm not done. We're not done, but I want you all to remember that we cannot stop fighting, and you
No.
cannot stop pushing. If we don't ask Biden for things, I love you too, Carol. If we do not, if we do not push for the things that we need, if we ever stop pushing, and I don't care who's the president. See, you don't take your foot off the gas because Trump is there. First of all, the Republicans don't even like him, y'all. They don't like him. But what they did something smart that Democrats don't do. They didn't bury him because they couldn't. So you buried Bernie. I don't know how you have someone who, if it is rumored he's coming to town, 50,000 people show up. They did the same thing to Reverend. They did the same thing. That having been said, and then you took the weakest candidate and made him president, and then he became the weakest president. do you follow the line of logic here? Biden was never strong. He peaked on the day that he won, and he never, ever, ever came out from underneath the bottom. Livonia?
Correct. Correct. He seek the election, the votes of the people. The people went with the message that was given to them by the Democrats, and saying that the devil was on this side, the devil was in the details over here, and that we had the answer, and we were going to take them to the promised land. And that's what. Right.
And
That was
that was crazy then. The thinking, the the math wasn't mathing then.
right. And then the thing about it, even we never, I don't know if we did or not. I'm gonna just say it doesn't appear that we asked, we as a people in the nation, for all that we deserved for the vote that we gave him. And then here we are today. He is so upset, so unnerved, and it's about legacy. It's not about what have I done for the community, or what I've done for the country, what I've done for the world. It's about legacy.
Ooh. Bless his heart.
Is that all you're going to share with us in the next 4 days about what you did? And I really think that he did do wonderful things. I really do. But I could see the decline. I could see the decline in March of last year.
Girl,
I wasn't in the White House.
you saw it in 2020. You saw it in 2020. You saw it in 2021.
Yes.
You already look. But the thing is, he said he was going to be a transitional president.
Yes.
And which means I'm only going to occupy this space for 4 years. When Jeff Cohen and Norman Solomon and through Roots Action said, don't run, because he was underwater 2 years ago, way underwater. No one saw him coming out. He was in a war. He had started a war. That's why, because we're at war with Ukraine. Because we're at war. We are at war through Ukraine with Russia. And it was something that was not going anywhere. In fact, the longer we were in it, the more unpopular it and he became. Let's just keep it 100. When Jeff Cohen and Norman Solomon said that, the party, they were furious with him. Furious. And look at us now.
Yeah.
Bless Kamala's heart. She sat with the head of the big union. And he said, you better come on board, because we're going to win anyway, with or without you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was not the thing to say.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
And the thing about it, and then what the Democrats, what the Republicans did, and the Democrats did not, it appears, is that we didn't give Harris the room to run. I mean, the year to run. We weren't negotiating. I always said that Trump reminded me of the Godfather series. The Godfather series will teach you what he knows and how he learned. The Godfather, I'm the Godfather. All these other people work for me. I might not like them, and they don't like me. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, I'm still the Godfather, and I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to either pay for it, or you going to pay for it. One or the other. One or the other. Godfather. I tell people, watch the Godfather 1, 2, and 3. You will actually see Trump and what he has done.
Well, you also see Biden because you see power.
Yes.
I mean, and my thing is, I don't mind power. I just need you to use it for the people.
That's right. Right.
And so, I don't think you should be selfish with it. And that is what we're seeing. And so that's why I'm saying he could cut a check right now for $16 billion to those land grant colleges.
That's true.
That the government already owns them.
That's true.
If I ask him for one thing, I'd ask him for that.
Me too. Right. Absolutely.
If you just do that, I'm good.
Right.
And, the thing is, he could do it. He could. And he wouldn't have to do $16 billion. He could do it in a way that stays right under the radar, that stays right under the threshold, and it would add up to $16 billion. half a billion, or 499.99, and do that until you make them whole.
Mm-hmm.
But he has no interest in making them whole. And
No.
no, but you know what? It is in our interest to make him make them whole. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
what he wants. See, we keep trying to look for acceptance that ain't coming, and it
It's
shouldn't
not
come,
coming.
because the only glory and honor that you should be seeking should come from God. So you're
Yeah.
getting what you deserve, because
Mm-hmm.
you are making someone else a God when
Mm-hmm.
only God is God.
Right. That's why I
You
say the
want,
Godfather. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I say Jesus. And y'all, because
Mm-hmm.
that's how I believe. I'm like, what y'all
Mm-hmm.
want to do is have someone, he accepts me, he likes me, he really likes me. I ain't Sally Field trying to get some Oscar.
No.
No,
No.
no, 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 no. Only entity you ought to fear, the only entity you ought to please is God. That's it. So enough of this
Absolutely.
already. So you know what? We become skin worshipers, so we're going to pay. We've become covetous of other people's power and other people's things. Livonia, so we're paying.
We're paying, and so I agree with you. I mean, for me, I'm using old school. Pick up the phone, text, or whatever, starting tomorrow. What about reparations? What about the HBCUs? What about Flint,
That's
Michigan?
right.
What about the Haitians? I mean, what about Haiti?
That's it.
I mean, do it. And if nothing else, you know this. If nothing else, there is a group of people who will get on the phone and rail the White House.
That's right.
African Americans so far have not done it the way that other countries, other people have done it. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
When the deal came down about the Arab Americans and Gaza, what did they do in Detroit? They said, "Oh, you're not getting our vote." Oh, no, no, no.
That's
And
right.
they thought it was going to be 1,000 people. It ended up being 10,000 individuals who said, no, if you don't do right with the Arab Americans and our family members over in Gaza, you're not getting our vote. And they didn't.
And you
They
know
didn't.
what?
They didn't.
And guess what? They have self-respect.
You see?
Now, because wait, you ain't gonna bomb my grandmama. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not
Right.
going to do it. No, it's not going.
Right.
It's not. You
It's
not
not
going
going
to.
to be
That's right.
televised. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
No, girl, wait a minute. You're not going to kill my whole family.
No, no.
I
And
mean,
get away with it.
what?
No way. And get away
No,
with it.
no,
So
no, yo.
they
It doesn't work.
10,000 votes made the difference in Michigan, by the way, just so you
Well,
know.
and we always
10,000 votes.
we said that was
That's right.
going to happen. So we
That's
said, well,
right.
wait a minute. First of all, you gave Kamala the border. You knew the border was a losing issue.
Yes.
So did you ever like her?
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Well, no, no, no,
No.
no. But then Willie Brown told her to stay in the Senate. He said,
Right.
no, this ain't what you want to do.
I
Really?
just think she could be a messenger all over the country and do a good job at it. I really do think that she could take this message that you and I and people who are listening, who really need to understand we got to get the plan together now. She would be a good messenger. She really good. She really would. I could put herself in a position of being known around the country in the next year to two. In 2 years, her name will be known and her actions. And see, it has to be an action behind it. It has to be a message, an agenda, and an action.
Well,
And I
that's
think,
true.
yeah, right. And I
That's
think
true.
she could. I would hope that she would consider something like that.
Well, first of all, you got to work for people, not for votes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because really, at the end of the day, it is about serving the people.
Yes.
And then let the people and let the fates take you where they take you. Jimmy Carter showed you that sometimes you can win, you can lose, but you really win.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A genuine person. I mean, I met him a couple of times, many times, but the person he was always he was who he found out who he was grounded with. He was grounded in Georgia, lived in Georgia, breathed the air of Georgia, and had a belief that was stronger than anything that no one could beat down. I wouldn't care if he was president or he was the PTA or the whatever, the janitor. He was going to be Jimmy Carter.
No, he was grounded in God, girl.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
And
He knew.
so it was all right. It was all right. There's a photograph of all those presidents just before George H.W. Bush passed.
Yes.
And you saw Obama and Clinton, I think George G.W. Bush, and I think his father. There was four of them, and Carter was off to the side. It's the most hilarious picture I have seen. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, he was all right with, you know what the thing is, like I said, winning the office sometimes is not the big win. It's not sometimes, it isn't the big win. The big win is doing God's will. The big win is, my grandmother Gertrude said, there's one way. It's the right way.
That's correct. That's the only way I know.
I mean, that's it. I mean, so the world can have all of this, y'all. See, because when I see God, I want God to say, you did well.
Yeah. Job well done.
Job well done. You did right by me.
That's right. That's right.
Come on in. Come on in.
Steve Jobs said that with he said that even with all of the money he had and all of the type of doctors, he still lost his life.
That's it.
But he said at the end of the day, he would have given all of that up to be all right with his Lord and working with the people. That's what he said. This is a billionaire, bigger than, who are we dealing with now? Let me put it, a wealthy billionaire, but he would have given it all up.
But in his lifetime, you didn't see that.
That's right.
As he was
That's
leaving,
right. That's right. That's right.
As he was leaving, he saw.
That's right.
None of this stuff. He got perspective,
None
and that's
of it mattered.
all you want from everybody.
No, it
All
didn't
these
matter.
people in California, you've lost everything.
Everything.
Well, some people said, "No, I got my life." And then you see, I think Dr. King talked about, hey, Robert, how you doing, sweetie? It's about getting down to the most fundamental part of you, who you really, really are, Livonia.
Yes.
Who are you really? Who are you really?
Yes.
And, that's why I'm saying at this point, what I want is to be right. That's it, Livonia. I just want to. That's it. That's it. I you know what? I want to do my part to feed somebody, to help somebody. I go places, and I've seen people be so kind, and people who I don't know, and who I wouldn't even expect to come up to me and say, "How's your father doing?" I'm like, "Oh, he's doing all right." They're like, "Well, we're praying for him." People of every conceivable background. I remember going to Chinatown in '84, and these people saw us with our Jesse Jackson buttons on, and all the Chinese and the Asian people would say, "Oh, your money no good here. Money no good here." This old woman, we went to get some dim sum, which I love. And she said, "Oh, Jesse Jackson." I said,
right.
You Delegate Jesse Jackson? We said, yes. He said, money no good here. She started bringing out all this. She had them bring out all this food. We were like, oh, no. She was like, no, we love him. We love him.
That's true.
So, we saw some things. You know this, Livonia, because I'm saying we saw some things. We saw people. We saw some wonderful people.
We really did. Really blessed.
And really from blessed. Every background.
That's right.
And you saw that, before people got down on some members of the Jewish community who came at Reverend with everything they had, I mean, to take him out.
Yeah.
But then you had Carolyn Casden. I mean, our sister just came out of nowhere. And she was 10 toes down, our girl.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You mean, I'm just saying, we saw Casey Kasem
Mm-hmm.
in his own bus and
Mm-hmm.
started registering Arab Americans.
That's
We
right.
didn't, we, my father knew Casey Kasem, he married him and his wife. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
know he was going to rent would leave the studio on Friday after
Mm-hmm.
America's Top 40 and got a wonderful bus and went through it went all over Michigan and went throughout the country
That's
in the
right.
Arab American community, registering people to vote.
That's right.
And our campaign in '84 and '88 was run out of his house in part. Our
Mm-hmm.
people were staying there because they didn't have any place else to stay.
Mm.
And with him and Gene Kasem, because he
Yes.
was married to Gene Kasem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, I've seen some wonderful people do some wonderful things, and they didn't look like me,
Right.
but they did look like me because they were human.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
It was the rainbow. I mean, it was in the true form. It wasn't just a slogan or a logo. It was truly a group of people that were diverse, not only in color, but maybe in attitude, size, religion, education.
Everything.
It was the rainbow.
It was a complete and
Yes.
looked like a crazy ragtag group,
Yeah, right.
and we
Mhm.
are family today.
It was from, I always say that rainbow on the female side was from Rosa Parks to Shanae.
That's
Everybody.
right.
That's right. From Rosa Parks to Shanae. That was
And
rainbow.
Mary Sue and Dolly.
Yes. Right.
Uncle,
Right.
we got some of
Yep, right.
everybody who would
Yes.
come out and and let's do that. Carol, you said you met Dad at the Chicago airport years ago, and you thanked him for everything, and he was so gracious. Oh, bless your heart. But thank you for being kind to him. And I tell you, I can say this, that my father feels so blessed to have been able to serve God and you.
Mhm.
And that is something that he passed on to my brothers, my sister, and I. He said, "No, I didn't make a lot of money, and that was never my point. But what I've tried to do," he said, "what I'm trying to do is leave you a good enough name so you won't be ashamed of me.
Mhm.
And maybe you'll be able to eat, but you got to be qualified to do whatever it is that you do, and I want you to do it well. But just know that Daddy's going to try and leave you a good name." And I thank God for that. I thank God for all of the work that he and all of you have been able to do together, and especially you, Livonia.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Pleasure. Right. I learned so much. I mean, my world was open. I mean, who could talk about a little girl from the neighborhood of Detroit, in one of the toughest neighborhoods, would end up going around the world, seeing all that I could see, meeting, getting on a boat and going down the Nile. Who
Mhm.
does that? From
God,
Detroit. Yes, on the Nile.
God,
Right, riding on the Nile. And
God.
right. Absolutely. Right. Who says that you could go and the Pope, I'm happen to be Catholic, and the Pope greets you and kisses your ring and gives you a rosary that is blessed from the water of the Vatican. Who does that from Burlingame and Dexter in Detroit, which
God.
is like Martin Luther King Street in Georgia, just so you
Wait,
guys will know.
no, in every city.
Every city, if you go to, yeah, Martin Luther King Street, you know where you are. Well, that's where I am from.
Oh Lord, I love it. I love it.
Oh man, but look what Rainbow did.
Well,
The Lord. put me in a space. Because I mean, no one would believe me in '84. No one believed me. I said, I'm going to go and Reverend Jesse Jackson is going to run for president. The only person I have to give it credit, my husband, ex-husband now, Dr. Johnny Fairfax, if that's what he wants you to do, you should go. That's who told me to go. And it was just amazing. Nobody else would believe it. They said, oh, no, that's not true. And guess what, folks? Word to the wise. There were people who did not believe that he could run, that he could win, or wanted him to run, and said they weren't going to vote for him. There were people that looked like me who said that.
But then, and there were people who didn't, who said, you better run.
You better run. Run, Jesse, run. Wasn't that was the theme. The theme, and it was a roar. It wasn't even a theme. It was a roar in the country. Run, Jesse, run. It was a roar. It was just like the Detroit Lions, like lions coming together, and you could hear the thump of the people, the thump of the people, the heartbeat of the people. Run, Jesse, run, and it just took over the country. It really did.
It's changed all of us. That's why we all have to come together.
Yeah,
I'll say this as we go. My roommate from college, one of my dearest friends, Lisa Mitchell. Her father was the great state senator Clarence Mitchell. Her grandfather was Clarence Mitchell Jr.
Yes.
The one on
Aaron Mitchell.
Perrin Mitchell was her great uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Her grandmother was the first Black woman to become a lawyer in Maryland from a really distinguished family, and she's my sister today. And we drove down to Charlotte in '87. She came on down with us, Wanda Evans, a couple other friends, and we went down. We drove down from DC for the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after it was over, we went to the airport because we had to go to Iowa from there. And she hugged me. She said, you always told me about the rainbow. And I didn't believe it until I got down there. Mm-hmm. And to walk into this stadium that had thousands of people there in Charlotte, North Carolina. People of every race and creed, not only introducing him on the stage, but they were in the audience. Mm-hmm. And she said it was such a wonderful feeling. She said I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
And the thing is, you know what, everybody, we just have to come together. We can do that.
We must.
And even when we don't agree, let us not be disagreeable. Let us be kind to each other. Don't complain about Trump. If there's something about him that you don't like, just don't be that. How about that part? Don't you be unkind. Don't you be brash and rude. Don't you do that. And leave him some space to grow. Don't make someone their worst. I don't know I don't know what God's gonna do. I gotta work on myself.
As I say, I'm a work in progress.
Yes.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I got enough to do for me and for my community and for the people around me and the family, that I hope that it will penetrate and touch other people across the country. And I mean, can you imagine if we could just wrap our arms around this globe that we live on?
We can do that.
Yeah.
We're doing it right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give everyone a hug.
Yes.
Starting with you.
Yes.
I love my Livonia. We got a lot of work to do. Everybody,
we do
me a favor.
We'll be back.
Yes, but like and share the show. I got to get these ladies together. We have to do something regularly because everybody gets real hot and crazy. This particular combination of women, all y'all get crazy on the show. And
wow, it was like wild and crazy. But it's like and share, no matter what time. Right, find this show. This is a show for the people across the country, around the world. It really is. It's one of the few that exist here in America. And I'm telling you what I know. Been in this business since 1972. Think about it. Ain't that something? Before she was even born. But
No,
I
I was
really,
here. I was
oh, you were
very
here?
here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
1972. So I'm telling you what I know. There were many, many, many women who were in radio. I mean, just think Wendy Williams was in radio. Just think about it, all over the country.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can count on two hands how many women, this is true, are still doing what you're doing on two hands. That's it. That's it. Think about it. I want you guys to understand. So you gotta protect. When doctor was right, we gotta protect our journalists and our speakers and our messengers. Have to protect them. So you need to like and share every day.
Love you.
Love you
Santita
more.
Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio. I love y'all. Have a good night.
Good night.
Oh, love you, Carol Soskin. You touched me, my girl. Reverend Doctor, sending you so much love. Well, we just took a trip down memory lane. Love y'all.